Hi, welcome back to Rigmarole. I'm Clara.
I'm Des.
And tonight we're gonna talk about Gideon the Ninth. So if you
haven't
haven't
grabbed the book, I'm grabbing the book.
grab the book.
You say it.
If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell because we do post every Monday. Apparently not at the same time every week, but we do post every Monday.
Yeah, about.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this gem.
Okay, so we both really liked this book. It's very fun. It's lesbian necromancers in space, and you can't go wrong with that ever. We wanted to first talk about what we liked about the characters.
The characters were fantastic.
I think what this book does really well, and that something sometimes people struggle with, is that it takes extremely strong character archetypes and character types, and all the characters are very distinct and have very unique personalities that are easy to grasp, but they still manage to be complex as you get to know them.
Yeah, like each one is distinctive. Like you can definitely get a specific vibe from each different person that you meet throughout the book. However,
it's like your first impressions do not necessarily end up being the only way you think about them, because it's able to show that even characters who are like, it's like you had the couple that were like, they were both like, the guy who did kind of dorky puns and his wife, and they just love each other, but they're still tough characters. And then there's Gideon, who's kind of casual, a bit crass, but also like tough girl archetype. Yeah. But she also manages to be someone who does have a surprising sense of like right and wrong and caring about others. And then Haro, who I just love.
The character changes that go, because the characters do go throughout heavy changes in the book, but it's not unfounded. Even at the very beginning with your main character, you can see that she already has specific tendencies
and specific goals.
And then as the book progresses, you're able to see how those develop and just become stronger as she grows within her new roles.
I'd recommend for writers to this is a good book for writers who struggle with writing distinctive characters, because it's one of those that really shows that you don't need to shy away from laying out your cards on the table. Like in general, both with characterization and plot, like I feel like sometimes writers, we want to like hide too much stuff or like let you discover the characters, but sometimes when you start off really strong with a character, that allows you to push them even further and do more interesting things with them. And when you have all these distinct characters, it also helps when you've got such a big cast, because then it's like you're just excited about any interaction that happens between different characters who you haven't seen interact, because it always makes different sparks fly.
Yeah, definitely for people that like to hold their cards, and I know I'm guilty among them, but for writers that like to hold their cards, it is a good thing to just show who your characters are at the very beginning, and also kind of give us an idea of where they're going to end up. You don't have to hold so many things back. Maybe just one or two things, but not everything. Just don't do it. And this book does a really great job.
Yes. Okay. The second thing we really liked about this book was that it's an example. It's actually a fairly short book. It kind of looks bigger than it is, but the print is very large. But one thing I really liked about it is that it has such a distinctive world and kind of magic and power system and hierarchies, and it doesn't feel hard to swallow at all. Like, I mean, if I was going to make a comparison, it felt in many ways to be as complex as some of Brandon Sanderson's works, but it doesn't like take so long to like get you into it.
Yeah,
because it's first of all, it's much more laser focused on one aspect of that society, and lets the rest of things be kind of drawn in broader brushstrokes, which I think is like the right choice.
Yeah. I think it's really helpful that there are only two scenes, really. There's the initial place, which is
two settings,
two settings. So there's the initial place,
the ninth planet,
and then you go to this house on the first planet, and those are the only two places you're at.
Another thing it does really good, so basically there's 9 planets, and I believe this is like set in the future, so it's kind of like the 9 planets of the solar system, and the 9th planet is Pluto, maybe?
What?
Because there's 9 of them.
Oh my gosh.
So the first...
No! There was never... What?
It's a subtle world building thing where it doesn't tell you specifically. But something this book does very well is that it uses the strong characters that we mentioned before to establish both the world building of the magic system and of the planets. Because basically, our main characters were introduced to first, and they're from the 9th planet. And you get to learn a lot about how the 9th planet works and their whole culty religious sect and how they're all about secrets and being goth, basically, and it's great.
Yeah.
And then they have to go for this big, it's essentially like this, not exactly Hunger Games style contest to become like immortal for the
It's kind of like a Hunger Games style
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
But so they go there, and so there's like a Cavalier, which is like the bodyguard knight person, and the Necromancer, who's like the wizard person. So it's basically like a wizard knight combo, is how I'm simplifying it. Two of them come from each planet, and I'm vastly oversimplifying it.
But basically, the fact that we get I think it's 5 or 6 chapters in this 9th planet, it really allows the writer to contrast that with the rest of what we see. So we get this good basis, and then we get to...
And because you got a very strong foundation of only one of the worlds, we don't actually need to visit all 8 of the other ones to get a vibe for how this universe works, because instead we get a really strong understanding of the 9th world and 2 characters that come from that. Then they get to interact with different pairs from each of the other planets, and we get to learn about each of their specialties and how their worlds differ, and you can just and it just lets you like fill in a lot of the blanks yourself. How their worlds are different, because basically it uses characters with distinctive personalities to contrast with each other, and that tells you how the worlds contrast with each other.
Yeah, it doesn't really explain very much as to what's actually happening on the other planets, but you can infer a lot just based on the people that came from there.
Yeah, and also how they apparently differ from what is expected from their planet.
Exactly.
Because sometimes there'll be stereotypes that the main characters know of, but then this character doesn't quite fill them or something like that. And all of that, so essentially what it does is it uses characters to stand for a bunch of the major settings in the world, and so then those characters serve double duty, both as being characters and also as representing setting elements. But also then this also works to represent the magic system as well, because each of them have a different specialty with necromancy. And so in that way, essentially the world building is able to convey both like setting details and magic details and character details all at the same time, and you don't feel force-fed it with a whole bunch of exposition, because instead it's done naturally with you meeting and interacting with characters.
It's basically character-driven.
Yeah, and I think that's very clever and very well done, and it makes it move fast.
Yeah.
Finally, we want to talk about the way that this story twists certain tropes and expectations by using established character archetypes to then create strong characters and then twist the way they interact with each other.
Yeah. So, minor spoiler, but not super big spoiler, because this happens towards the beginning. They meet a character when they arrive on the new planet, and as soon as she gets off the ship, she, like, the way she's described, I'm like, oh, this is the character that the main character is supposed to go for, but then they turn out not to be the good person for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see them in 2 seconds, and you're just like, that's that archetype, and it gives you this great frame for them.
But it works, and it's very fun because, again, it's typical trope but gay, which is always a good choice.
Yeah, we've been over that before in our 10 tropes.
It's just interesting to see how certain character dynamics can be just slightly rewritten and seen in different ways just by changing the genders of the characters involved. So I personally am a big fan of that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we were going to talk about is, again, the relationship between Harrow and Gideon is very interesting, because they start off being just like
toxic.
It's
absolutely toxic.
This combination of toxic childhood friends that then became kind of rivals versus enemies. But it also has this very strong vibe of like siblings who know exactly what buttons they can push on each other.
Yeah.
They're just horrible for each other, and it makes for a great interaction, because then they're like stuck in this situation, and you're not sure if they're going to end up being able to work together and be friends, or
they're just ripping each other's eyes out.
Yeah,
I was pretty sure they were going to rip each other's eyes out.
And it works because you end up really liking both of them, even while you don't like both of them at times.
Yeah, like, they just have such an incredible dynamic right from the get-go that you see how distinct their characters are, and it's just so strong opposition of personalities that You're just along for the ride.
And this also again helps with what we were talking about before with the complicated world building and stuff, because it's using characters to like give you information about the world, and it gives you a focus because this is one of the stories where like the overall plot is confusing because they're put in this situation, they're not quite sure what they're looking for, what they're supposed to get from it, and so by having a central conflict between these two characters that the entire thing can revolve around,
it gives you an anchor.
It gives you an anchor so that then the rest of the plot can like come and be really complex and weird.
So that was Gideon the Ninth. Gideon the Ninth. If you haven't read it already, please do.
We both really liked it and were screaming about it.
Both really liked it. Also,
a long time.
The sequel was pushed back. It was supposed to come back out in June, but apparently now it's coming out next month. Hopefully, cross your fingers. Cross your fingers.
It's so bad.
But anyhow, so hopefully it's coming out, and hopefully we'll get to read it. That way we don't lose our minds. But if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell, because you're gonna want to hear what we're doing in the future.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
Yeah, bye.